Hi everyone, how are you? Welcome to the Etiquette e Protocolo channel. I'm Juliana Santiago, and in today's video we're going to talk a little more about etiquette in food courts, specifically shopping mall food courts. Well, if you already follow the channel more actively, you're always here with me whenever I release a new video. You've probably already seen the other videos where I've talked about etiquette at the mall, etiquette at the supermarket, etiquette on airplanes, etiquette at the beach, and so on. There are several situations where you can apply etiquette in your daily life. Because what I always say here on the channel is that etiquette isn't something you need to know just to use on special occasions, like when you go to a party or a more formal situation. It's something you need to understand and apply in your daily life in a very practical way. Etiquette will help you handle situations in a better way, which will give you more confidence. And you'll know if what you're doing is right, if it's in line with good manners, if it's in line with what a polite person should do. So today we're going to discuss this a little more. It's about etiquette in the food court. The first thing you should pay attention to when you go to the food court is holding a table that could be used by someone else. Many times when we go to have lunch or dinner at the food court, we might have to wait for someone. Sometimes you made plans with a friend, for example, to have lunch at the mall and she's really late. And then sometimes you end up holding a table that could be used by someone else. That could be being used at that moment by any other customer there at the mall as well. So, for example, if you're going to use the food court during peak hours, sometimes at lunchtime or dinner, and there are a lot of people there who want a table and are in a way competing for one, I don't recommend you hold a table just for the sake of it, Sometimes your friend hasn't even arrived yet to have lunch with you. Sometimes she's still going to take a while to get there. And since in the food court we have a faster pace, it's different from a restaurant. The place you're actually occupying and holding could be for someone else. It's different, for example, when you're there with your husband at the mall and he went to buy some food for you and you're just waiting for him to come back with the meal. These are completely different situations. So, if you arrange to have lunch or a snack with someone at the food court and you notice that this person is taking a long time, the food court is crowded and the tables are in high demand, why not leave the table for someone else and wait for the person to arrive so then you can get a table and actually choose where you both want to sit? We have this habit of holding on to a lot of spots, right? Because we're afraid of losing them, but the tables aren't going to walk away, right? The turnover in a food court is high because often people go there, have a snack, eat something quickly, and then that spot is taken by someone else. Like I said before, it's different when you go to a restaurant where people sometimes stay longer and lunch tends to be a longer, slower process. So it's important for us to always evaluate these contexts and understand how we should act in this kind of situation. The second aspect that people also have the habit of doing, right, related to etiquette, is leaving the table dirty. Sometimes people believe that because there are cleaning staff or other professionals responsible for maintaining and cleaning the area, we can, leave the table full of food with all the trays dirty. No. The food court, as I mentioned earlier, is really meant to have a high turnover. Even though there is an attendant or a professional, responsible for the turnover and keeping the area organized, if you've noticed that the food court is really crowded and the turnover is high, why not take your tray and clear it yourself, right? People are used to leaving their food scraps behind, and even though we know it's just leftover food and all, we know that someone else's leftovers aren't the same as our own. So it's important for us to take care of our own trash in a way. Not to mention that the person who's responsible for cleaning and maintenance isn't just in charge of taking away trays, they're often also responsible for cleaning the floor and mopping. She handles the whole cleaning process, and in a way, if you take away your own tray, the person responsible for coordinating the cleaning can focus on other things, making the place even cleaner for you and for the other customers who will use that food court next. It's important for us to help out, right? Yeah, just because there's someone there who's responsible doesn't mean they don't need help or attention. Another point is about the bags. Shopping at the mall is really wonderful and everyone loves it. But what happens is many times you go there, make several purchases, and you also have your purse or your backpack, and then you go and put everything on top of the table. Or sometimes you even put it on another chair that could be used by other people. Especially during peak times, right? In the food courts, at lunchtime, or even in the evening, using that chair is very important. So what do I recommend? I recommend that you really leave your bags on the floor. You can keep them close to you, sometimes under your table if you feel more comfortable that way, and you also need to pay attention. As for your purse, I don't recommend putting your purse on the back of your chair, and I've already talked about this here on the channel. I talked a bit more about purse etiquette, a video that's worth watching. Why isn't it a good idea for us to leave the purse on the back of your chair? Because it really gets in the way. You know, it blocks the flow of people. People might bump into it. Your purse could fall on the floor. Also, sometimes if your purse doesn't have a zipper, someone could brush against it, things could fall out, and you might end up losing things. It's safer anyway. So it's always better for you to keep your purse with you. If the mall and the food court are quiet, you can leave your shopping bags on the chair next to you and even your purse on the chair next to you as well. But in a situation where there are a lot of people and everyone wants to sit, everyone wants to use the tables, it's really better for you to leave your bags on the floor close to you. It's also no use leaving them scattered around, getting in the way of people walking through the aisles, right? And you can keep your purse on your lap. This helps a lot and makes things easier for other people too. And it's important for us to remember that etiquette isn't just about doing things that will make you feel better and more confident. Of course, that's a very positive benefit. Developing good posture and confidence is something amazing we can do for ourselves. But etiquette is also about doing things for others without expecting anything in return. So when we plant the seeds for a better society, we certainly end up receiving that back in a very genuine way. So it's important to always show respect for others. Another etiquette mistake people make is using a very large table with only a few people. Sometimes you go to the food court and there's a huge counter where more than one group could easily fit, right? More than one family group at that same table, especially in the center during peak hours. Of course, I'm recording this video in July 2021 when it's really important for us to maintain social distancing. But it's important for you to consider the context of the table you're going to use and how many people you're going to seat at the table you chose, right? So right now, yes, we're in July 2021 when the context and the importance of social distancing are still very relevant. But we have to keep in mind that there are several situations that can apply. Sometimes you go there, you're alone, and there was a table for 2 people, but you take the biggest table that could have been used by a group, for example, of 4 or 6 people, and you're just one person using a huge table. So wouldn't it be better for you to sometimes sit at a counter that's there in the food court? Some food courts have counters, some hire smaller tables. Wouldn't that be better? So you could leave that kind of table for other people, right? So it's worth noticing how your behavior may be leaving too little for others. Pay attention to that. Now, we're going to talk a little about lines and a very common mistake when we have lines, right? Especially at fast food places, we want to get that sandwich with fries, with Coke. It all sounds great. We want to get our snack, and this kind of fast food place usually has a slightly longer line, right? In the case of McDonald's, Burger King, right, which are more popular places, there are other brands too. But what happens in these lines in these restaurants, right, that attracts so many people to the line? A lot of people, to pass the time, stay on their phones and end up getting distracted very easily. Not to mention that they also end up talking to people on the phone, speaking very loudly, shouting, recording voice messages on WhatsApp. It goes on. And that makes other people who are sharing that line with you feel uncomfortable. Whenever you're in line, and this isn't just for getting something to eat, buying your snack, your lunch, or your dinner. But whenever you're in a line, it's important that if you want to, you use your phone, right? Only in text mode, talking too much near other people, especially if they're really hungry. Just like you, this can make people uncomfortable and they might end up getting nervous there. So it's important for you to pay attention to your own behavior regarding this as well. Another etiquette mistake that people make is showing affection in a very exaggerated way. It's really nice for us to express ourselves emotionally, right? Holding hands, giving kisses, hugs. But there really are some people who go a little overboard. So we have to think and notice that everything has its context. Each environment will have its own context and behaviors that are acceptable there. If we're in a food court, that's a place with a lot of people. So why don't we leave the exaggerated displays aside, okay? It's not that you can't kiss your husband. That's not it. Kiss my wife? Of course you can. Of course you can show affection. It's very important that we do this, especially with the people we love. But here I think everyone is an adult and everyone understood me. It's when things really go too far. And it's also important for us to know how to act in that kind of situation when we're sharing with other people. And last but not least, it's important to give up seats and space to people who have priority when necessary, especially during rush hours, right? We know that priority today in our country is even a matter of law, but many times we end up forgetting and not paying attention. So, did you see a pregnant woman? Did you see a young woman holding a baby or a woman with a baby in her arms? Did you see an elderly person who has difficulty or people who have trouble moving around? Did you notice that the person needs help? Someone who, for example, I don't know, is feeling unwell. Offer your seat, offer your place to that person. Be kind and considerate to people who really need it and qualify for priority. I know you might have some questions about purses and shopping bags. Where do I put my purse? Where do I put my bag? So I'm going to leave a video here on the side that will help you a lot. It's a tutorial on purse use that I've already made here on the channel. And it will definitely be the most complete content you'll find here on YouTube about this topic. I'll leave it here on the side for you to watch next. I'll wrap up here. Thank you so much and see you in the next video.